Today we're going to make a really quick ground beef lunch. So we are going to make some ground beef and some cabbage and some steamed sweet potatoes. It comes together really quickly and it's probably easier than you think it'll be. So first, to start, you need to put on 2 pots of water to start boiling. So the first pot here that I have is for my cabbage, and the second pot is for my sweet potatoes. Doesn't really matter what size pot, you just need pots that are big enough for the amount of sweet potatoes and cabbage that you are going to cook. In this recipe, I am cooking enough for me to have 2 servings. So I'm starting with the cabbage. So you can clean off the outer layers of cabbage, like the more tough leaves, and then cut your cabbage in half. I found that half of like a small to medium-sized cabbage was enough for 2 servings. I am cutting out the core, so you can just make those cuts on the side and then use all your strength to pull out the core. That part is kind of tough and doesn't cook the same as the leaves, so you can just cut it out. So cut your cabbage. I just did a very simple slice. And then I'm going to use this Goya chicken bouillon. This is the powdered kind that comes in the little packets, but you can also use the little chicken cubes. The same product comes in cubes or packets. So now that my water is boiling there in the back, I am going to add the chicken bouillon powder. And you can see that I just have a little bit of water. The cabbage, you just want to braise it. You don't want to like boil it in a big old pot of water. You just need to braise it. And cabbage has lots of water in it, like most vegetables. So you just need a little bit of water. I would say that that's probably 1.5 cups of water. So stir in your seasoning packet until it dissolves, and then add the cabbage. I will say that the seasoning package was enough to season all of this cabbage. If you like your food like extra salty, then you may want to just taste some of the cabbage after you cook it and add more salt or pepper or whatever. But I found that using that whole package for half of a head of cabbage was actually surprisingly enough seasoning. I know, I was very surprised too, but it was very tasty. I was very surprised by this because I literally just made this up as I was going along. So stir in the cabbage so that it is coated by the seasoned water. And again, you can see that the cabbage is not fully submerged in the water. You just want enough where you can kind of like season the cabbage with the seasoned water, but definitely don't boil the cabbage like in a big pot of water. So I'm putting the top on the pot so it can steam. And then I moved on to my sweet potatoes. So peel the sweet potatoes and cut them into small cubes, like bite-sized cubes. And before putting in the sweet potatoes, I just went back to stir my cabbage. This is what you'll need to do throughout the cooking process because there's not a lot of water in there and you don't want anything to get stuck. You want everything to be seasoned equally. So throughout your cooking process, just stir it along, and you can see that my heat is about medium-low. For the sweet potatoes, I put my steamer basket into the pot and then put the sweet potatoes in. This is 2 small sweet potatoes. Make sure to add enough water so the sweet potatoes can steam without burning or scorching your pot, and then put the lid on, and there you go. That's pretty much it. For your other half of the cabbage, you can just take a piece of plastic wrap or food wrap, whatever you have, and cover the cut side. I'm actually going to cover the entire half of cabbage, but at least cover the cut side. You can also put the cabbage in like a glass bowl or something like that if you have enough refrigerator space for a container. I don't, so I use the wrap. Next, to start on the ground beef, I am using, this is about a half of a medium-sized sweet onion. And I am going to let my kind of OCD tendencies get the best of me and try to reassemble the parts of the onion that fell apart. Oh, you don't have to do that, obviously. But I am going to then slice the onion just one way. You can slice it however you like or chop it, but I just sliced it one way to make it a little bit smaller. Then I'm going to take 2 cloves of fresh garlic and smash the hell out of them. If you smash them very vigorously, it makes it a little bit easier to chop them up more finely. So cut off the little butt ends. If you've ever cut garlic, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But cut the little butt ends off and then finely mince the garlic so it kind of looks a little bit like this. Moving back over to the stove, I am now putting on my heat protection because the steam will burn the color off your skin if you get too close. So make sure to always use some tongs and heat protection when you are steaming things, cooking hot things on the stove, of course. So like I said before, throughout the cooking process for your cabbage, make sure to just stir it around so nothing gets stuck on the bottom. Next, moving back to the ground beef, I am going to take some extra virgin olive oil. You can use whatever kind of oil that you have. It does not have to be EVOO, but take a little bit and put in a pot and start to heat the pot over about medium-high heat. So I'm putting in my onions first, just the onions. So I'm going to let those soften. Stir around the onions so they get coated in the oil. And I'm letting those onions cook for about 1 to 2 minutes before I add some salt. The salt helps to draw out the moisture in the onions, which will help them to soften a bit faster and start to release water. Next, I'm going to put the ground beef into the slightly cooked onions. This is organic ground beef, and this is about 3/4 of a pound. I'm not sure you can tell, but the packet had been opened and I'd used 1/4 of a pound for something else. So this is about 3/4 of a pound of organic ground beef. So just put the beef into the pan and start to break it up. I actually tried to use the potato masher that you see on the right side of the screen. I saw someone else do it and it didn't work for me, so I just used my little wooden spatula thing, spoon thing here to break up the ground beef. I'm going to season the ground beef very simply with just salt and pepper. And this ground beef I think was 85/15. Next, I'm adding some powdered garlic. My camera did not want to let me be great today, but I'm also using some onion powder. So I would say a heavy pinch of both, about 1/4 teaspoon of both, to season up your ground beef. So after you put the seasonings on, just continue to mash it and get it kind of ground up into smaller pieces. After the ground beef has cooked for probably about 4 minutes, it's starting to turn brown, then add the garlic. I add the garlic a bit later so that it doesn't burn, because garlic cooks way faster than onions or ground beef. Returning over here to the sweet potatoes, I just steamed them until they were fork tender. So you want them to be really soft so they are easy to mash. I am going to mash mine, as you can see here. So I just dumped the sweet potatoes into a bowl. And I'm going to add a little bit of salt. Anytime you have something sweet, just add a little bit of salt. It makes the sweet taste better, if that makes sense. So I'm adding some salt and some pepper, just a little bit. My little grinder thing doesn't release a lot of pepper at once. And then I am going to add, this is about 1.5 tablespoons of butter. And a little bit of molasses. So you can add whatever kind of sweetener you like. The molasses adds like a earthy, malty kind of flavor and sweetener. So if you don't have molasses, absolutely do not go buy molasses for this. Just use some maple syrup. So this is maple syrup. You can also use brown sugar, which will melt a little bit easier than granulated sugar. So use some brown sugar, or you can use cinnamon. I did not put cinnamon in these sweet potatoes. Or you can just mash, add some salt, and just eat it as is. You absolutely don't need to also sweeten the sweet potatoes if you don't want to. So just mash those up until they are your desired consistency. And taste to make sure that they are sweetened or salted or whatever to your desired taste. And that's it. Now it's time to plate things up. So I have my pot of cabbage on a trivet to protect my countertop. So I have the hot pot of cabbage just right off the stove there. If you're not filming and futzing with plate placement like I am doing, this whole recipe comes together in like 15 to 20 minutes, basically in the time that it takes to steam the sweet potatoes. This is done. So it's very fast. So like I said before, I made enough for 2 servings. So I would have like some leftovers for later in the day. So I plated up half of the ground beef, and I'm taking tongs to pull out the cabbage, and you can see there that there's not very much water left in the bottom, but I just didn't want like the extra liquid. So I'm plating up half of the cabbage. The cabbage is really filling, so if you want something that's tasty for some low calories, definitely cabbage is the way to go. And then I'm adding a scoop of the sweet potatoes. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this really quick and easy lunch. I think it's pretty balanced with some meat, sweet, and some cabbage. So make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment below, and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and Basic Ass Cooking signing off. Bye.